How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Same. Thank you for having me.
No worries.
Um, First off, congratulations on the memoir. I absolutely loved it.
Oh,
And upcoming release. How does it feel that it's done and people are going to get to read it?
it's an interesting balance between exposing myself and like an enjoyable experience. It really has been. It's an interesting thing knowing that my life story is going to be out there. Um, I'm not afraid of it, but it's just I can't wait to hear what people think. For better or for worse.
Well, I, for one, am giving you a very positive review. So,
Thank
well,
you. I love that. Thank you.
so as someone who originally didn't want to stand out, and was kind of very quiet, kept to himself, what inspired you to ultimately tell your story?
Well, really, you're right. I didn't want to stand out. If I all I wanted when I was a teenager was just to be average, and I think that's a teenage thing though. I do, but I feel like I had reasons as well outside of just being a teenager. Um, it took such a long time. Um, it took such a long time to own that part of myself. It really did. And if I could somehow help in telling my story, that it's only what you think of yourself that matters. It's only what you believe about yourself that matters. If I can maybe imprint that on somebody else or some other people, I would be very happy. Just to give them just a little bit of hope.
And that's really the takeaway from reading that is every single chapter there was that underlying, like, you are enough, like there is hope.
Yeah.
And it was just very, very inspirational to read. So thank you.
But I didn't write it like a self-help book. I didn't because it really is true. It's just the way my life happened, and I didn't plan it that way. So I'm pleased. I'm just so happy it's turned out the way it has.
That's awesome. Yeah. Um, so when you set out to write it, what did you have in mind?
I had no idea. I had no idea. I didn't plan to write the book. My manager Guy and I, we always spent a lot of time together on the road as a DJ around the world, and on hearing my weird stories of my past over dinners and on airplanes, he turned to me one day and said, "Kristian, you've got to write this down. These stories you tell me and the things that have happened to you, and it's not normal. It's not like the average growing up. And to me, obviously, you only have your own life to reference. So this has been a very normal life for me, um, in a weird way. But 'cause it's my life, I don't have any. I don't know what your life's like. Um, so yeah, that was interesting. It really was.
Um, when reading this, I went through a very emotional roller coaster, just trying to like remembering from watching the show and reading the books and then getting to hear your side of it and everything. So when you started diving into these memories and writing them down, what was that process like for you?
It was painful at first, really painful. Um, but then that changed. It changed into almost like cathartic. And it has. It's turned into a hugely cathartic project for me. Um, but initially, I was, it wasn't a good feeling to go back into some cul-de-sacs that are inside my brain. Um, but once you go into them, and I find this in life as well, once you actually face up to it, it's not as bad as you think. Um, and yeah, it's become very valuable to me. I'm proud of it, and yeah, it's just been immensely valuable. And at the start, it was hard.
I get that. And of course,
Mhm.
after reading it, I understand why that would be difficult for sure.
And one of the hardest things was writing about my mother. You know,
Mm.
I can write about my stuff all day. It makes me emotional, but not any way that like recounting some of the things that happened with mom. with her life. Obviously, I asked her permission and to use these things. I don't actually to use other people's stories as part of my own, but my mom's such an integral part of not only my life but who I am. And some of the things that have affected her have affected me through her. So it was definitely a story that needed to be told.
And you dedicated the memoir to your mother as well.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to do that. My mom deserves to be remembered, and she's still alive, obviously. And but I want her to be remembered, and not just by me, because she's so wonderful. She's such a wonderful person.
She sounds like it for sure.
She
Yeah,
is. We all have our moms, you know. But if you're lucky enough to have the relationship with your mom, we all have our moms. So especially a gay boy like me, um, that's a very close relationship.
yeah, and it's actually really funny too because you kind of wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her pushing you to accept the role, and just it's just a classic example of mother knows best for sure.
I know. Like, you know, that's the horrible thing. I fought against it for most of my life that she was right about everything, but then you realize when you get to like 48, yeah, they've always been right. It's really annoying.
Um, one thing that I'm always amazed by when I read memoirs is just the attention to detail and just like it's the present tense writing and just like even though I wasn't there, like I felt like I was there.
Oh,
So
great.
in addition to kind of diving deep into your memory, was there anything that you had to do to really bring yourself back there in order to put it on paper?
A lot of it still feels quite fresh. But what you say about the timelines and everything, the events, it was hard to tie together in a cohesive way. I wanted some of the stories with Game of Thrones to sort of mirror things that had happened in my life in the past. Um, and hopefully they kind of worked in that way. I just didn't want to be like a random pile of facts to come together. And me being an experienced author, it was a challenge to learn that. Um, and I'm not a big reader at the minute, so I wasn't able to use any books as a reference or anything. But uh, I did get some help with it. Obviously, I did get help with the structuring of it because with a lot to put together, really a lot. That was the thing, the sort of organizing the timelines in a cohesive way. Um, that was definitely the hard part. But hopefully I pulled it off. I'm sure people will tell me.
Well, I absolutely loved it because I love a non-linear storyline, but
Yeah,
also I did notice that there were parts uh when you were in Game of Thrones and then going back into your life growing up that did kind of mirror each other. So that was really cool to see.
yeah. And then there's the whole like Game of Thrones is a battle. I grew up in the middle of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and there are parallels there as well, and how you handle yourself in that sort of environment. So I think there's parallels there as well.
For sure, yeah. And I absolutely love the title. Did you know what the title was going to be like early on in this process?
I titled it. That was my title.
Like,
Yeah, and do you know what? I know there's a book called Beyond the Wand, I believe, as well, but that was just it was just the Beyond word. It just felt right to me because it's like you've stepped out from behind the throne. You know what I mean? And I'm now out in front as me. You know, and that's why Beyond felt the word to use. I didn't really. I was determined not to have the word door in the title. I was like, guys, no door. There's no doors. So uh, I did have a lot of say in the naming and stuff.
that's awesome. Yeah, sometimes there isn't a whole lot to say. It's kind of like what's marketable, but to hear that you actually got to title this just kind of makes everything so much better, for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, you do have to come in with realistic titles. Like, I'm not going to come in with like the random off the wall title. I would have been completely in agreement if I was just talking rubbish. But I got my name was in the options of what they gave me as well. So I was pleased that they didn't just rubbish it.
Um, my absolute favorite line out of the entire story is your comment about how Hodor doesn't change, he accepts who he is. And we see that journey with you through this as well. So kind of going back to something that you say really early on is that being called an actor felt too grand.
Yeah.
So does it still feel too grand, or are you kind
No,
of
darling, no, I'm a thespian.
yay?
No, it does
That's what I
not.
wanted to hear.
No, I do feel like an actor now. You know,
Good.
um, I do. I wouldn't say I like to blow my own trumpet or anything, but I know I'm proud of the work that I've done. I love the work I did on Our Flag Means Death. I adored that. So yeah, I do. I don't have imposter syndrome anymore. Um, that took a long time to shake off. But I don't have it anymore. I believe I deserve to be where I am.
That's awesome. Um, how when did you write this? Like when did you finish writing it? Kind of like what was the timeline, I guess, between then and now?
Wow, this is an interesting one. I have a skewed sense of time just because of all the travel and stuff. But it took about a year start to finish to write.
Okay.
In that process, and hmm, would have started probably 3 years ago, and then there's been a year of like prep and editing and putting everything together. So it took about a year.
Okay, that's great. Because like when at the end of your story, there's still that like we can very obviously see that growth in that you're more comfortable as an actor, you're more
Mm,
trusting that people want you there for a reason and that you are good enough, you are enough. So just
mhm.
kind of wanted to check in from finishing your story to now. Has there been more growth? Like obviously acceptance is something that we all work on till the day that we die.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, very much so.
how are you feeling now with everything?
I mean, yeah, anyone who says they've reached their final form is lying. Um, you might believe you are, but learning never stops. Learning never stops. I love that. I love the fact that, I don't have all the answers to my life. I don't need to know them all. I'll uncover them when the time's right. Um, but yeah, it's just been such an interesting. I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question for me?
Oh, just how are you feeling with like
Yes.
accepting yourself and being comfortable with the roles and everything?
Almost with Our Flag Means Death, we have such a kind and dedicated group of fans, and it's getting bigger and bigger, even though the show's been cancelled. Um, that's been a huge part of it. It's almost as if we've become this, or the actors and the crew. We're obviously we're not in the same thing, but it's almost as if we're part of the same crew. It's almost become symbiotic, and they're so kind, and in helping them, and being true who we are, it helps them, and we get it back. I get it back from them, and it helps me. And even, being in that show really pushed me to the next level in myself. So it was just a joy to be in.
That's great. That's great. Um, are you still known as the Red Bull guy, or has the coffee on set gotten so much better?
I just mainline. I don't. I just Red Bull in my veins. No, I haven't had a Red Bull in a very long time. Actually, I've kind of gone off it. I think Red Bull shares have just tumbled. Um, But yeah, I was a 10 can and a 2 hour DJ set guy. That is not healthy. Um, so no, the answer is no. The Red Bull guys, no. I don't think I've replaced it with any other vice. There's no coffee. But look, we've got water,
Nice.
so no Red Bull.
Because that was something that was just so funny that I saw that you noted multiple times was that just the coffee was just tragic.
Oh, it's terrible, terrible. And yeah, I would open up my fridge and everyone had like their fruit and salads and everything, and mine just looked like a nightclub fridge. You know, the next day I just need like champagne and alcohol pops in there as well, and it would have been a party.
Nice. Nice. Um, so what's up next for you? Obviously, you have the release of your memoir.
Yeah.
But what else can we look forward to?
I've been working on a lot of new music as well. I've been working on it for a very long time. I still have music would be hard for me to release as well. I'm very perfected. I have a very I have a tight grip on the music, and
Mm.
I've never finished. You know, I still need to learn that. See, we're all still growing. I still need to learn when to stop and let go with my own projects. So that's something I still need to work on actually. Um, but yes, it's it's just been such an interesting journey. It really has. And it's going to continue. And I never planned the journey. That's the thing. And I'm not going to plan the next part. Just going to see what happens. As long as I'm performing in some way, whether it's acting or DJing, writing books, talking in front of crowds, I'm a very happy person. I'm covering the microphone. I'm a very happy person. Uh, so that's what's next for me. I'm just going to continue hurtling through life like Haley's Comet.
I like it. I like it.
Like,
Um, that was about all the questions that I had for you.
no
Again,
problem.
absolutely loved your memoir. Loved the
Thank you
message.
so much.
And I'm inspired to rewatch Game of Thrones. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
really?
Yep,
Please tell HBO that.
I will for sure. Um, but before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to add about the release?
No, no, that's been pretty thorough. Thank you so much.